two-time world champion in women's ice hockey and most recently won Olympic gold with Team USA.
The Cap Stadium series was definitely my favorite, obviously. I'm a huge Caps fan. I always have been. And to be there at that game with my teammates and for us to bring, our gold medals to, it was really, really special for me. And just the support, and it's been tremendous from everyone in this area. And you could feel that there at that game.
Now, here's Sports on the Hill podcast.
That's right. It's Monday night. CP3 live from the lab. Sports on the Hill podcast on TruRadio Network coming to you with the NLCS preview. Nationals, Cardinals, Nats up 2-0. We're definitely going to talk about that at 7 o'clock. Get great detail into what's been going on with Nats and this spectacular playoff run that they're on. As always, CP3 coming to you live, bringing you the best DC sports coverage around. We already got Robbie G on the line. We already got Anna K on the line because we got a full show for you tonight. We're going to be talking Nats, Capitals, Mystics, the new WNBA champions that we've been covering like no other DC sports outlet for the past 2 years. Even when they went to the finals last year and came up short. But they came through in Game 5, like I predicted. As I said already, I had a good week with DC Sports last week. But it was definitely good to see them reach the pinnacle of their success and bring the first championship to the franchise for them. And we're going to talk some Capitals who are playing right now versus Colorado, and it isn't looking too good. They're down 4-0 after the first period. I don't know what happened. I had the game on. I was getting ready for the show. I looked up. It was 3-0 before I knew what was what. I didn't even know what happened. But I guess we'll talk a little bit about that. And as I said, we're definitely going to talk about the Nats and this game that's coming up at 7:30. We're going to go all the way up until first pitch. And we already got Robbie on the line. Robbie, how are you doing tonight, good sir?
I'm doing well. We're live streaming, I believe, on Twitch and on Facebook Live, and I'm now making my face appear on there. We had a pre-stream with Carol trying some new stuff out on his page, so that was kind of cool. And yeah, lots to talk about, as you can see on screen if you are following on the Sports on the Hill podcast page. You got WNBA champions winning an NLDS. We got a Redskins victory and Capitals winning their first ever game in the Stars. And I wish I could have said and winning a game currently, but unlikely for that. So yeah, it's been so far. It was a great weekend. Hopefully the Caps are able to turn it around. But I'm very excited about the Mystics and their big win. And we had more shows on our website, SportsOTHP.com, than we've ever had in a single week. We did a post-game for every one of those wins. So 4 baseball wins, a Mystics win, and a Redskins win. So definitely check all those out on SportsOTHP.com if you haven't.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed. You must go check it out. What's up, Johnny? What's up, Ken? DC's People Champ on. What's up, Grant? This is you on the Facebook Live. You can check us out. Streaming live on Sports OTHP and my page. Go check it out. Yeah, Grant is looking ugly 4-0. I don't know what's going on. But before we get in the Caps, let me go ahead and do a quick recap of the WNBA champion Mystics, since we do have new champions in town. Unfortunately, they didn't have a parade. We spoke on that the other day, but they're still champions no less. And as Robbie pointed out in Game 4 of the NLDS, they will be, at Nats Park getting honored for their championship. So make sure you check that out if you get a chance. Quick recap of the series. Game 1, the Mystics won 95-86. Game 2, they lost 99-87. Game 3, they won 94-81. Game 4, they lost 94-86. In Game 5, at home, they prevailed 89-78. Emma Messelman was the MVP of the finals. Bench player that stepped up huge throughout the whole playoffs. She even led the team in scoring a couple of games and had a couple of double-doubles in key games. So it's good to see the ladies getting the recognition. I saw they was on Good Morning America, and they're doing their championship tour. So it's good to see the ladies handle their business and finally get that elusive championship.
Yeah, definitely. It was a really exciting game, really exciting for the area. A lot of people have been writing articles, including we talked about last week. Bradley Beal wrote one about them, and John Wall has gone on record just this since that they've won that more attention needs to be on this team and equal pay, or at least better pay for these women, so they don't have to go rush off and do a job on the other side of the world just to get enough money for them to do their profession. And I think that they're right. I mean, that's why the parade's going to be postponed until the spring. But they did have a little mini celebration, and it's just so exciting overall. I thought Emma did such a great job off the bench, getting that MVP. First player ever to get an MVP from the bench in WNBA history. And then obviously Elena Del Don was amazing as always. I mean, playing with the 3 herniated discs is incredible. But all of the players really stepped up, and they really all seemed to want to do it for their coach, one of the most winning coaches in WNBA history. But he finally got his first championship. So it's just a great story all around, and I'm happy it's something that we've been covering all season. And I look forward to continuing to cover them in upcoming years, and maybe we can go to a parade next spring for the Mystics.
No doubt. Hopefully we go into a couple of parades this year. We got some good stuff going on. Let's go ahead and segue into the Caps, who are not looking so good right now, as we previously mentioned. And I'll go ahead and bring in Anna Kay so she can help break down the week that was, and hopefully some of that good fortune to turn on the game currently. They can get back in this game. Anna, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I was doing okay until the puck dropped in the spot. I don't know what's going on with the boys tonight, but wow, it's just a sloppy game. This is kind of painful. You have polar opposites. Our team looks like they don't know each other. The chemistry's off. The passing's off. They overshooting, and then the Avalanche are so tight, and they just wow. And so I'm hoping, let's hope we can pull it, put that first period behind us and say, all right, we still have 40 minutes of hockey to play, but man, this is kind of cringeworthy.
Yeah, I was so.
Well, they're starting to looking a little bit better and more crisp in the second period so far.
Yeah, I of course was driving home during most of that period, and then I turned off the radio for a few minutes to make some calls, and I turn it back on, and they're already down 3-0. I turn it off again, and then turn it back on, and it's 4-0. I actually figured out how to get a live scoreboard on our live stream, or one that will be updating every few minutes from Google. So that's kind of cool. Hopefully we can get some goals on the positive to show up on there. But if anyone wants to see the live scoreboard while we're chatting, they can always check us out on our Facebook page. But yeah, it's frustrating to be down so quickly. But I have to give Colorado a lot of credit. I believe that they're coming into this game undefeated. They have been a great team all season long. Yes, they're 4-0, beating Calgary, Minnesota, Boston, and Arizona. And some of those were wins by our old friend Burakovsky, who I know is Carol's favorite. So, yeah, he won an overtime game just the other day, I believe, for them. And the person who's right now shutting us out is another good old friend, Philip Grubauer. Colorado just took a hooking penalty, so the Caps go on a power play, but of course immediately cough up the puck. So that's always a good way to start it. And so well, let's take it back a little bit. We'll come back to this live game, but let's talk about the last week that was for the Capitals, and some brighter spots and some not as bright spots. But the first game and the last game we'll be breaking down are both against Dallas. Anna, why don't you break down the one that was in Washington first?
Sure thing. So last week we welcomed the Stars, and we have Susie scored the only goal in the first at 4:49. It's by Siegenthaler. Second period saw the Stars score at 1:59, but then also the fans got a chance to see John Carlson score his first goal of this season at 15 with assist by Ovi and Backstrom. Third period had the Stars scoring first, but at 19:25, number 19 scores to tie it up with assist by Wilson and Carlson. The Caps and the Stars head into overtime, but Tyler Seguin scores 43 seconds in and ends it with a Caps loss. I will just say, I said before, I like the pairing between the Stars and the Caps. I think that this is when they're very, very similar. They play, they both have outstanding players. I think you're going to get a lot of great hockey out of those teams. However, this is sort of the week that kicked off of what happened to the Capitals in the third period. And that's unfortunate. And so this is a good game. I really wish it hadn't had to go to overtime because we seemed just kind of out of gas at that point.
Yeah, it was for sure disappointing. And of course, speaking of disappointing, the Capitals gave up their power play pretty darn quickly. So it'll be 4-on-4 for another 40 seconds, and then Colorado will get another power play, which is exactly what they need. Yeah, I mean, it was disappointing. I mean, I feel like Dallas always plays us really, really tough. It's something that's... I've stopped going to Dallas games in Washington because I lost 3 in a row, and it was just starting to get really upsetting to me. And I'm like, this is not worth it. It was a game that I thought that we had a really good shot at. Just have a 2-1 lead going into the third. John Carlson's been a bright spot so far for us. I believe he's got 10 points in 6 games or something like that. So he's been playing well. Obviously, Nicholas Backstrom had himself a good game as well. I love the fact that he was able to tie that game up so late. That was really great. And disappointing result, but at the same time, I thought, I don't know, in some ways, I was happy that we were able to get a point out of that game. And yeah, it was definitely better in some ways than the last game, or the next game that we'll talk about. That game really kind of pissed me off a lot more. I know the Predators are really good, but it was just, well, I'll let you break that one down in a second. But Carol, do you have any final thoughts on the first Stars game?
Yeah, it was just, I saw the 2-0 lead. I had a good feeling about the game. I thought they were going to be able to finally, exercise that demon, so to speak, with Dallas. As we know they haven't won straight up against them in a long time on the road. They won at home a few times, but Dallas still has their number. But yeah, it was disappointing definitely to see them score 3 unanswered when this team is supposed to be built around defense and avoiding that from happening, and it ended up happening, which really sucked.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of annoying because I check out Cap's Facebook and everyone's saying got to fire the coach and all these doom and gloom stuff, and I want to think that these are a lot of 1-goal games. They go either way against playoff teams from the year before. Unfortunately, this game kind of makes me pause a little bit because this is not that. But I think that the games, there was a lot of positives to be had from a lot of those games. I don't know if there's a lot of positives from this game so far, but overall, I was pretty happy with most of that Dallas game except for the final result. But let's have Anna break down I'm going to put the scores up on the screen here, the Predators game.
Okay, so after the Dallas loss, 2 days later, the Caps headed to Nashville, and Eller opened the scoring with the rest of 9-17 with assist by Halfway and Carlson. And then the Preds scored about a minute and a half later to tie it up. The captain scored a power play goal at 4:46 in the second period with Kuzi and Carlson assisting. And then the Preds come back. They scored. It was very much what I was like, it's a tight game. It's, kind of a ping pong back and forth, but not so much. But at 12:28, Wilson scores, followed by another captain power play goal at 17:36 to make it 4-2 Caps. Sure, like the rest of you, we were all pretty confident. Unfortunately, the third period had the Preds scoring 4 times. We do have an exception of Oshie scoring his third at 10:09. But this was of the 3 games, this was the most painful, the most frustrating loss to see, especially when you have a good lead going into the third. And for some reason, it's, if we were playing 40 minutes of hockey, I think the Caps would have had it and we would have been fantastic. But it's 60 minutes and we're just not seeing it, unfortunately. So I don't know. This was not. I want to say this is not my least favorite game, but I'm kind of thinking tonight might be my least favorite game of the last week or so.
Yeah, I was hoping that would be my least favorite game. It was really disappointing just because we had, I believe, 4 different leads in that game. So, that's difficult. And I just, a 2-goal lead pretty late into that game, too. So, they had to score, 4 out of the last 5 goals to be able to come back and end up winning in regulation. And they were coming quick. I mean, the first 2 goals in the third were about...
It was like 4 goals within 9 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. The first 2 were about a minute and 15 seconds apart, and then the last 2 were about a minute apart, or maybe a minute and a half. But, things unraveled quickly for them. And, I've got some question about what's going on in Holtby's head. Is he worried about being protected or in the contract situation in the future? I legitimately don't know what's going on with him. But I'm happy that our young goaltender seems to be doing better. I'd like to blame it on the defense for defensive lapses, but some of those goals I think Holtby could have had in that period for sure. We seemed to play better when it wasn't. So I can't tell. Who's this a penalty on? I saw a stick go flying out of the corner of my eye, and he's saying that it was his. All right, so.
Wilson, this is crazy.
Damn it.
I can't even put my finger on it right now, but it's still early in the season. Folks, we're talking about fire the coach and all that other stuff. It takes time. We saw what happened on there before when the team started out slow and got out at the right time. It's just, early season. Let them, find their way before we talk about firing anybody, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree 100% with you. I'm always, find myself more protective of the coaches than maybe I need to be. But I think in this situation, it is way too early. I'm seeing just a disconnect with the defensive players. I don't know what's going on. But Robbie, when you just saw the situation with Holtby, Gil and I just did our Power Play podcast, and the biggest thing that we said was, here's somebody, been doing this for 10 years, the Caps, he's, skilled, obviously save during the Stanley Cup Finals. We have all these amazing long laundry lists of things to say about Holtby, but that one con is when he is in a negative headspace. And I think that it's either, Samsonov coming up and everyone's hyped about him and his 2-0 games, but let's just, bring it back down to 2 games, out of 82. So I think that, social media and the commentators and everybody else, that's got to be hard to take in, but he also needs to find a way to rally and not be thinking about what's going to happen, 2020. Let's be thinking about, October 2019 and playing this Avalanche, because what we're seeing right now is not the Holtby that, we all know and love. This is a player that is obviously distracted.
Yeah, it's. I think it's pretty evident. Yeah, I'm happy. I mean, we've looked clearly better since they made a goalie switch in this game. Though I think the 4th goal is his. That he let in, but still he seems.
Got a turnover, beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful turnover. Ovi got a turnover, put it forward, and I think that was Eller. Yep, Eller with the going top shelf on the goalie. Beautiful play. It's not over. It's still time in this game in hockey. It's a lot of momentum. They can get 2, maybe 3 back in this period and hold Colorado off as a whole new hockey game.
Yeah.
Let's hope, because, I mean, it's at home, and, you know, let's get, and the fans are always fantastic. Let's see if they can, you know, rally. Don't go silent. You know, this is when the players need you. But, yeah, that was good again. Oh, Tiger.
Yes.
Way to go.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Yeah, this game's gonna be interesting. I don't know if you saw, Anna, but it's Ovi Jr., his son's first game that he's going to see live. So I thought that Ovechkin would be really amped for that. So I'm hoping.
I had a moment yesterday. I'll say when I went to the Dallas Expo, to stand in line for 3 hours to get to get a picture with him. And then there was an autograph session I was helping a friend out with. But I was like, well, maybe he'll bring him. Like, would that be awesome? But, of course, you know, obviously he didn't. But, yeah, his son being out there during the warm-up up against the glass was the cutest.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I hope that they're able to turn this one around. All right, well, let's maybe preview a little bit of. I'm gonna put the scoreboard over here, and let's preview our upcoming week ahead for the team. So we've got.
Do you want to do the second Dallas?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
The Dallas game. Rob, you trying to discount the good stuff?
No. I'm sorry. I have to admit I've been distracted by the game. So yes, go ahead and let's talk about the Good Stars game. I'll be honest. I watched most of it, but I fell asleep on the couch for the third, which I felt really bad about. But I'm excited about the result. So, but yes, break down the Stars game for us, please.
Okay. So finally, on Saturday, the Caps head to Dallas, and then the first period, the only goal was a power play goal by Mr. Tom Wilson at 3:17. Second period had Carlson's second goal, was assisted by Hathaway and Dowd. And into the third period, here we have Kuzi scoring a power play goal at 3:35. The Stars make their only goal. It's 7 minutes in, and our captain scores his fourth with an empty netter at 19:03, giving the Caps a 4-1. And finally, because it's been way too long since they have won in the Big D, since like 1997 or some ridiculous statistics that we had to listen to over and over again. You know what? That demon is behind us. We won in Dallas. It was a great game. And Robbie, I will start, or I'm actually one of you who just mentioned, you know, the coaches or talking about things. I felt like there's the first South game and the Preds game, there was a very much a disconnect, you know, kind of what's going on, and let's tighten it up, and where's the coaching aspect or influence. I felt like we finally saw it here in this game. They looked so much tighter, so much more just quicker. Chemistry was on, and it was good. And this was the 16 minutes of hockey that we needed to see. And unfortunately, I was thinking that they were going to kind of ride this high, and we would see it at home up against Grubauer, up against Avalanche, who obviously have started their season very well. And Burakovsky, you know, those are factors. But I really was hoping that the team would come together, you know, as a cohesive unit at home and keep riding the W. But man, I don't know. Tonight's just an off night. Let's hope the week is not going to be like this.
Yeah, for sure. I was very excited about how this game started. I thought, you know, Tom Wilson played phenomenal in the first period. I liked John Carlson continuing his hot streak. I believe it was 2 goals in 2 games in a row, right, or something like that. So
the new A on his jersey, that's given him a little something extra.
Yeah, I mean, he's leading the league for defenders with points, and he was leading the team in points, and he's one of the league leaders in points. So, I mean, it's pretty impressive, definitely to start. And then, obviously, Kuzi getting that goal, and then Ovi with the empty netter. but just overall, I thought it was a really great all-around performance, and I was happy that we finally could get that monkey off our back and get a regulation win, first time since '95. That point streak that Dallas had over us at home was the longest in the NHL. So I'm happy that we no longer have that hanging over our head. So that was great. I thought that it set the table for a really great week coming up here, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how these games go. So let's. We don't have to preview this Avalanche game. It's still 4-1. It's 10 minutes left in the second. They're now in our zone. Again, I have the scoreboard in the upper corner. If you're watching the live feed, facebook.com/SportsOTHP, or if you're joining us on our Twitter feed as well. So the games that are upcoming later in the week, there's a game on Wednesday on the 16th at 7 o'clock. The Maple Leafs come to town, and they've been a pretty good team this year. They definitely have racked up a bunch of wins. They're 3-3, so they started off strong. Then they had 3 losses to Montreal, St. Louis, and Tampa Bay. But then they recently beat Detroit. They're going to be playing Minnesota at home on Tuesday before they come to Washington. So hopefully that'll tire them out a little bit. I'll start off with Carol. Carol, what are your thoughts on the up and down Toronto Maple Leafs?
Well, there's young teams still trying to find their identity. They can score. They're still iffy on defense, which is, we know how that is being Capitals fans for a long time, having a strong offense and defense is lacking. But it definitely, with the way the team is playing right now, inconsistent. They play good 2 periods and play 1 bad period. Excuse me, we can't have that, but it's early in the season. I'm not really in panic mode. I mean, this is the start of the season. There's a lot of new pieces on this team that, they have to learn each other. Preseason is good, but live action is better, so give them some time. There's no need to panic. Just, see how things go. I mean, they got points in, 5 out of 6 games. Can't really be mad about that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think people are blowing a little bit of it out of proportion, but at the same time, the Caps just got to be careful because there's an interesting middle ground in this Metropolitan Division where it's going to get stacked up this year. Somebody I think is going to run away with it a little bit, but there's going to be the 2 through 4 spots are all going to be right there and very close because there's a lot of pretty good teams, including an interesting team in the New Jersey Devils. I'm really kind of curious how their season is going to go. I mean, everyone thought that they were going to be the best team in the division, and then they haven't won a game yet this season. So, they obviously hasn't come to fruition yet. But there's a lot of other teams in the division that could jump up, jump down. Another interesting thing is that the Rangers have only played 3 games so far in our division. And they're actually our next opponent on Friday. But they're only going to be playing a total of 4 games before they see us. And this is our 7th game, so we will play 8 with Toronto. So it'll be our 9th game. So we will, that's pretty crazy that we will have played 5 more games than them this early in the season. I guess it's hard to say, what are your thoughts on the Rangers when we just haven't, I feel like, seen them enough. I mean, they lost when they came back from a big break, but again, when you play that many more games, or that many less games, it's tough to get in a rhythm. Carol, what are your initial thoughts on the Rangers?
Like you said, I haven't really seen them in action yet. I've barely been able to keep up with the Capitals with the NLCS going on. So, I watched the Capitals and anyone else. I haven't really, had any issues. I haven't got a chance to watch them. I've been more concerned about the Capitals up and down play, just like with all the other teams I root for. I really don't worry about other teams. I worry about how my team's playing. And right now, they got to get it together because they aren't playing like a team right now.
Yeah, just so you know, the Rangers are 2-1 with 4 points. The current Metropolitan standings are Carolina finally lost a game. They won, I believe, their first 5, followed by that loss. So they have 10 points. Pittsburgh, unfortunately, has just jumped into a tie, but they got more regulation wins. So they have 8 points. Washington's got also 8 points. And the Islanders are right below with 6 points. And then Philadelphia's got 5. And then the Rangers with 4. Columbus with 4. And then 2 of those losses by New Jersey were overtime losses. So they do have 2 points. So that's how, it's early in the standings, but obviously it's going to be interesting to play a Rangers team that's well rested. Will have finally gotten a little bit into a rhythm, but that game will definitely, I think, be difficult, even though it is in Washington, just because the Rangers seem to always play us tough. Anna, do you have any thoughts on the Rangers?
I kind of feel the same way. There isn't enough information. I mean, you have Lundqvist, you have Panarin, you have Stahl, all, players that have made a huge name for themselves for the Rangers. I would like to say, try to take it on the positive vibe, say that, with us having more games, we've kind of gotten the jitters, the mishaps, the fluffiness out of the way. Tonight isn't a perfect example. I will say at least the benefit of the Scouts for the Caps, the first period wasn't a good example. They're trying right now. They just seem to come together, and I think I'm hoping that'll work in our benefit to have those extra games, because 5 games, that's a lot, and it's a lot to learn about players and lines and who works well and and who's going to be reaching the pipe. And, and I certainly don't think that pulling Holtby, he's going to have an off game. It happens. Pitchers have off games. Quarterbacks have off games. These things happen. So it's not the end of, the Holtby era, that's for sure. And I'd like to just see, people support him more. I like to see him go up against Lundqvist, because I admire both of these goalies for their skill. So let's hope. Let's just hope for the best. The Toronto, you've got John Flores, and at this point, I think everyone's more worried about kind of calming the Capitals down and seeing them, actually get out there and perform their 60 minutes, and not, this kind of erratic playing that we're seeing where it's nothing, and then it's kind of trying to get everything all in one, and back and forth. So we're just going to kind of hope for the best. I think this next week is going to speak a lot about what the coaches are going to do with the lines and who is really going to step up.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got one last game to break down, and that's the Capitals at the Blackhawks. I'm pulling up the Blackhawks standings and information right now. So they have also only played 3 games. I don't understand how this is possible. They've lost all 3 of them. This week they're going to be playing Edmonton tonight, actually at 8:30 in Chicago, and then they're going to play Columbus on Friday, and that's also, so that's going to be also in Chicago. Oh, they've got a long homestand. Okay, so Edmonton and Columbus are both at home, and then they'll play us on Sunday at 7. So it'll be an interesting week for them. We probably just don't know enough, but they, again, lost to Philly, San Jose, and Winnipeg, so that's all we know about the Blackhawks. Carol, any quick thoughts on that?
Like I said, it's early in the season. Just, Cap stay healthy, get their chemistry, and, figure out these new lines, hope to get itself together, and round back into the form we're used to seeing, and then, move forward and hopefully get on a roll like they have been, and like we've used to see them do, and just go from there.
Sounds good. And Anna, any final thoughts on that before we let you go tonight?
No, I feel the same way. I'm distracted, unfortunately, watching who's going to drop the close next in this game. But, the Blackhawks, they're a team you can't really underestimate for some of the players they have on it. But then again, if they're not having a great season, they may come out and just go, who knows? And I think, like Carol said, we're talking about, we care so much about Capitals, that let's just kind of get them in a good headspace and to get that consistency and that chemistry going on our lines, because I think there's a little disconnect going on there.
All right. Well, anyone who wants to hear more of Anna and also the Power Play Point podcast, they can always go to SportsOTHP.com and click the Power Play Point podcast button, and it's got all of their latest episodes right there. So whenever they drop that one that they did on Saturday, you can be the first to see it and listen to it. And we really appreciate, Anna, you joining us at this earlier time. Hopefully, we'll get somehow pull out a victory here from the jaws of defeat. I definitely would like to get one or two more in this last 5 minutes. The one other...
I would too, and as I'm thinking, I'd love to see a Chronicle. I think we haven't seen that yet, and I want to see him do something. I want to see Gudis drop the gloves, and I'd like to see us at least make it a little bit closer gap than what it is. And just to mention real quick, that Power Play Point podcast, you were able to record it yesterday. Gil actually got it out there today.
Oh, cool. So then if they click on the link...
It's on there, and we do talk about our goalie feelings.
Interesting. Yes. Awesome. Well, that's great. And I had one last question for you. Do you think you were going to be able to go to Martini's this week? I know you had talked about it last week, wanting to go.
Oh, my gosh.
The 49ers.
It wouldn't offend you Redskins fans.
Yeah, no. I'm not going to be down there, unfortunately, but I would love for you and Carol to do a post-game live together. That would be pretty funny. A 49ers fan and a Redskins fan, and we set it up down there, so we should be able to do it. We had 3 people across. We had a great post-game. People can check that out at SportsOTHP.com. So, yeah, I would love for you to go down there, and it's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. They got great wings, good beer, other drinks on tap and stuff. So I think you'll have a really good time. And, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're going to win, so I'm pretty sure you're going to have a great time. So you guys are 5-0 for the first time since 1990, I think it was. So congratulations on that. And, we both were able to have winners yesterday. I think it's interesting. Yours was a battle of 2 previous coordinators for our team. But I'm going to let you go because we got Dujanay on the line, and we're going to actually break into some of that football talk. But thank you so much for joining us, as always, and we'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Let's go Nats. I'm going to be pulling for you guys tonight. So definitely, Carol, I'll be in touch about that Niners game next week.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate it. You have a good night. Thanks for taking the time.
Cheers.
We'll talk to you next week. All right. So I always appreciate Anna's time talking Caps with us, breaking down the games for us. So, and we're also going to get into Victory Monday as we get ready to switch over the Caps score a second goal of the period on a nice play to make it a 4-2 game with 4:32 left. So the Caps can see if they can get this rally back. TJ Oshie with a nice goal to bring the Caps within 2 with 4:32 left in the second. They keep this up. They're going to have a tie game on their hands. Then it's anybody's game after that. So, Robbie, things are looking better for the Caps after we just finished our Caps talk.
No, that's good at least. I'm happy to see that. I'm actually going to put the Caps scoreboard on the top of my Redskins talk so that way people can be following live on the stream as well. Let me just update that score real quick. I need Google to update the score for me to be able to do it. But, well, I'll let you and Dujanay chop it up, and I gave a lot of my take yesterday, so I'm curious about some of his takes. So I'll let you guys chop it up a bit.
Yeah, I definitely want to get Dujanay's take on this game. As we mentioned yesterday, I made a bold prediction and guaranteed a victory over the Dolphins. Redskins won 17-16. I've never made a guarantee of any type of game before, especially on the air. I'm just glad it worked out. I didn't say how they were going to win. I didn't say how many points, the fact that they got to win. And I said the team would look different and more prepared. As we talked about yesterday, we saw that for 3 quarters of a game. So at least we're getting better. Normally, we've been seeing only 2 quarters of a good performance. Now we're seeing 3. So at least we can see some progression in a week since that other guy has left the building. We don't even mention his name on this show. So he's the ex-coach for now on and forever be. Dujanay, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm loving life. We got a Caps game where they're trying to come back. We got the Nats game, get ready to go underway to NLCS where they can put a stranglehold on this series. And talking about Victory Monday for the Redskins, that's finally, unfortunately, I have to say, in week 6 that they got their first victory of the season.
Hey, better late than never.
Yeah, that's true. They could be Miami or they could be, well, can't say the Jets anymore because they beat the Cowboys. That's another story in itself right there. I didn't thoroughly enjoy that game, though. But this game we saw Adrian Peterson get over 23 carries for 116 yards with a 5.1 average. We saw a balance in the offense, 155 yards passing and 155 yards rushing and 160 yards passing. We did still see some of the issues on third down conversions on offense. Defense, actually, numbers got better because the Miami offense is as bad as the Redskins offense, and their third down conversions was worse than the Redskins before. So at least their numbers look better. But we saw some of the same issues. We know it isn't all going to get fixed in 1 week of camp. 1 week of practice. We saw improvement. We saw a steady, attempt to stay balanced. I didn't like some of the 3rd and 2s in the shotgun formation. I know they only had one tight end. I understand it, but let AP at least try to get some of those 3rd and 2s. But defense, played for about 3/4 of the game. We saw when Fitzpatrick came in, he did some things. We know what he does off the bench because they don't game plan for him. But he exposed some of the issues that we've seen previously from this team on the defensive side. But all in all, it's a victory. I'm happy they won. Now we have a tougher opponent coming in this week that we have to play, or we're going there. I'm not even sure where it is. But what did you take away from this game with Bill Callahan calling the shots and Kevin O'Connell calling the plays?
I definitely thought it was a more spirited group. I know there was a sense of frustration with the first 3 drives. I think the Redskins only had like 21 yards in the first 3 drives. And, I guess you could be a little frustrated, but I think you have to also commend them for sticking to their guns. I know a lot of people in that locker room, including Adrian Peterson, were really excited about the fact that they were going to be making a commitment to run the football. And Bill Callahan stuck to that in those first 3 drives, and I think he should be commended for that. They weren't successful, but I tweeted it out during the game when AP started to have success, and that imposing your will on the opponent is so important. It's so easy, for a defense to get downhill and be able to inflict punishment on you if you're retreating a lot. With this offensive line, I think they showed that they definitely played better. They pass protected better. I wrote about that in my keys. It's just something that has, it's been proven time and time again, and they definitely showed that if they stick to it, you get Adrian Peterson a little lather, and then he starts, breaking off some of these, nice runs. So I thought they did a good job with that. Defense played well for 3 quarters. I think we saw some things from Greg Minutsky. You check out the article on stock up, stock down. I gave Greg the stock up this week, and I don't want people to get twisted on that. Stock up is stock up. It doesn't mean that I insist on keeping this guy, but you have to give him credit where credit is due. If you look at their production over the last 2 games, they've only allowed 3 of 14 third downs, so that's 21%, which is phenomenal, considering what they were giving up over the first 4 games of the year. So, that's always great to see. And he mixed some things up, like the pressures that they brought. A lot of it was given and done by the front, but he also brought some guys, Landon Collins on a blitz, brought a few other guys on some blitzes to kind of mix it up and give them some different looks and kind of keep them off balance on where they thought the pressure was coming from. Obviously, what like to look for now is for them to be able to finish in the fourth quarter, seal the game up. I don't know. I'm not going to blame a lot on the players in that fourth quarter because there's a lot of things I saw schematically that were resorting back to what had been done over the first six, over the first 5 games there. The soft coverages. You know how Ryan Fitzpatrick is, and he, as you stated, he comes off the bench. He has magic, and he's able to throw some balls and anticipate some things just because he's a veteran. And he took advantage of those things, but I also felt the Redskins gave him those looks. They put themselves in positions and in situations that they don't fare well in. And for 3/4 of the game, they put themselves in positions that they can succeed in and did an excellent job of that. It pretty much dictated what Miami was going to do offensively. So, you like to see that cleaned up. And if they can extend this for one more quarter and they can play 60 minutes of football, this is exactly what, media and fans alike thought that this defense would carry the load as this offense comes around. So I don't like it to come down to that 2-point conversion, and it makes the whole game look worse than what it really was. Because in my humble opinion, I felt they should have been up 21 on these guys, and it squeaked away with the win. The good thing is that the defense got a little bit of character builder at the end there. Obviously it was a bad throw, but either way, I don't care if he caught it or not. I think they had that pretty much sewed up, and it wouldn't have been it. It wouldn't have gone in. So it's good for the defense. Gives them some confidence going into a game at home against the 49ers. We know what they bring, so it is definitely good that they got a win. I know it wasn't pretty, but we've talked about it constantly. I believe you said that on your post game show that a win is a win. I'll take that ugly win over a pretty loss any day. So it's the first of hopefully a little bit momentum that they can string together a few of these. But definitely a much improved outing, and it definitely looked like the team had a little bit something extra, I should say, with Bill Callahan at the helm.
Yeah, I've had a feeling that we were going to see a different feel and a different energy from this team. Like you said, unfortunately, we saw some of the telltale signs of the lining up 5 yards off of the guy when it's 3rd and 5. I never understood that. But also had a fan asked a question about a possible trade with an O.J. Howard. Have you heard anything about that with Jordan Reed going on the IR before I go forward into this game? I told him I'd make sure I asked. I hadn't heard anything about it. Have you heard anything about that possibility?
I haven't heard anything about that. With that said, though, I feel I had an opportunity to see O.J. Howard when he came out of college at the Senior Bowl. Great size, great ability. Obviously, he comes from Alabama, but great size and ability. I feel like they don't use him enough there in Tampa. I don't think it's definitely not an indictment on him. I just think it's the way he's used. He's definitely a solid tight end. Would be a great pickup. Have not heard anything or any rumblings about them trading for a guy like him. I don't know what type of trade value he would warrant. I would say it would be a late round pick for the simple fact that he really hasn't. He hasn't produced if you look at the numbers. So, you can. I see a lot of Tampa games, being in this area as well. So I kind of keep an eye on them, being that I do a lot of covering of the NFC South, and a lot of it is just he's not being used. He's not being used, or featured as much. I mean, they've got a plethora of wide receivers as well that have, that do a pretty good job for them. So it would be interesting, though. Definitely would be interesting, but no, I have not heard anything about that, though.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I got that out there. You wanted me to ask. So, Brian, you wanted to find out. You found out here. Yeah, I definitely get some more insight in that, see if they heard anything, because we saw, as I mentioned earlier, about the 3rd and 2s with, only having one healthy tight end. I believe the other tight end got dinged up on special teams. So I can understand the 3rd and 2s, but you got an extra offensive line. If you got to throw one of them out there, at least try the 3rd and 2 instead of lining up the shotgun. And like I said, one of my keys to victory was not putting too much on Case. He had decent numbers. He didn't turn the ball over. And as you mentioned, the offensive line played well by not giving up a sack. But we have to get more consistency out of this. Go ahead.
I'll counter that. I'll counter your thought with this. Look, he's a veteran quarterback. And in a 3rd and 2 situation, I thought where they called him, and granted, I probably, in some of those instances, I probably would have run. But I also understand what Kevin O'Connell was doing there, and the play was there to be had. It's not like they dropped back and he called this play a la former coach that was here.
The other guy.
And called some crazy nonsense that was overly complicated and too many working parts that allowed people to leak in and put pressure on the quarterback. Keenum had plenty of enough time, and I stated that in my stock up, stock down. Yeah, he is my only guy that is the stock down, and he is not seeing the field at all. And there's no rush there yet. He's got a case of the happy feet, and he's kind of has this aura of having a problem of not feeling the rush. Those outs he had, I think it was one he had to Trey Quinn. I believe he had one to either Sprinkle or the other tight end that they have in, which I can't remember his name at the moment. And I think it was 3 instances, and I believe the one to Terry as well. But he missed those. Like, he flat out missed throws. And then on top of that, you go back and you're able to look at the coach's tape. Early in that ball game, he was missing wide open dudes, like down the field, and taking throwing short outs that he was missing as well. And when you miss throws like that, that has everything to do with footwork. And when you're not stepping through the throw, and basically, your foot is stepping where you want to throw, and you're off balance or off kilter or not going through the proper motion that you should when throwing the football, those things are going to sail on you. And it's too often that's happening. And I understand not putting a lot on his plate, because obviously you don't want him turning the football over. I mean, he turned the football over 5 times, or 5 or 6 times, or 7 times, including fumbles, in over 2 games. So you don't want any of that. But he's a veteran quarterback, man. You got to make those throws, and you can't rely on him to do that. That's where my thoughts are with Haskins playing. If you look at Case's numbers over the past 3 to 4 weeks, if you're telling me that Dwayne Haskins can't at least do that, then you got a bigger problem on your hands. Because obviously we know Colt ain't the guy, and neither is Case really. I mean, he's manageable and he's serviceable, and you were able to win the ball game. But what happens when you can't run the ball for 118 yards on 20 carries, and it's about maybe 80 yards on 20 carries? That means somebody's got to throw the football, and that's somebody right now is Case Keenum. And if he's doing what he's doing early in the ball game, and at times during that ball game, a reason why they were 2 of 11 on 3rd down, that can't happen, man. It doesn't matter what your defense does. Then we get into this old additive of, oh my goodness, the defense is out there long. How long is it before they get tired out and guys start marching down the field and putting up not 3 points, but 7 points. Then the game gets out of hand, and then we know this team has a very hard time coming from behind, especially from in big deficits. So he's got to clean that up. But I do agree with you. If you got something going and going for you, and I thought AP did a really good job, him and Chris Thompson, when he was called upon to get some nice runs. In some of those instances, you could have, but I thought the play call was the right thing to do in that instant, and it was the right call. And it was open. You just missed it, and you can't have a veteran quarterback who's supposed to be your stabilizer until your guy is quote unquote, and I'm using air quotes here, ready. You can't have that guy missing throws. And if he's doing that, then you might as well go to your your prize fighter there, if you're going to run the football and use that as your catalyst and play action off of that. Haskins can do that all day.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that he has to get more reps with the first team, being that I mentioned his name. That other guy wasn't giving him any first team reps. And, I think he's eventually going to get in there. I just think they want to, move it along, try to get the offensive line. Like you said, we had a good game, kept the quarterback clean, even though Case did make some crazy plays. I don't know what that play was in the fourth quarter, and he ran around like he was playing Madden, trying to make something happen. I was like, that kind of threw me off. But, Haskins is definitely going to be the future. He can make those throws, but you got the veteran there. Might as well get as much out of him as you can before you bring the rookie in. We saw the Giants put the trigger on Daniel Jones early in the season. They have a different mentality, but I believe he's going to get in the game. And you want to make sure your offensive line is in best position. They have something to, grow off of with the rushing and not giving up a sack. And the defense, Manusky, it's like they're testing him to see what can he do to change up what's going on, because they know there's too much talent on this defense not to be producing. And like I said, we've seen 2 quarters the week before. We saw 3 quarters this week. So with a tougher opponent and the 49ers coming in, I guess we're definitely going to need to see a 60-minute effort if they have any chance of beating this team. I'm not saying they will, they won't. I'm not guaranteeing any more victories. But it's definitely going to be an interesting matchup. If they can play good ball and, stay ahead of the chains and, keep things balanced, they can, any given Sunday. But I got to speak on something that I talked about yesterday with you. I know we don't blame the refs, but are you seeing a trend of they're seeing everything the Redskins do, but yet still they miss clear holding calls and other stuff on the other team? Or is that just me, not liking the referees?
I tweeted out early, twice. We have calls that were non-calls, and I tagged NFL officials, Twitter in that. I'm sick of it because you send us videos, and this isn't just a Redskins problem. This is a league-wide problem. I had a conversation yesterday with a Falcons fan. It's a league-wide problem, and the media and coaches alike get officiating videos on questionable calls every single week. As I stated on last time I was on this show, they gave us an extensive, long video, 10 minutes or more. I believe it was longer than that. Video on what a defensive pass interference and a offensive pass interference were earlier in the week. Now, this past video was defining what was a call for a foul when tackling a quarterback, which I still think is absurd, but okay, and what was the right way, which was not a foul in that. And yet, the whistle was blown for a call, which there's no way Anderson could have done anything better than what he did in tackling, I believe it was Josh Rosen. Nothing else he could have done. He did everything textbook. You hit him, you kind of lay off to the side, you don't land on top of him. Both guys were low. Josh Rosen got low to anticipate the contact. Their helmets hit each other. Okay, what is that guy supposed to do? The holding, all that stuff, a level of consistency would be nice.
I have a quick.
That's all we're asking here. And you can't keep sending out videos to the media saying this is what we're calling and how we're calling it, and then you do your officiating crews are not calling it evenly across the board. It's something I've been talking about since 2006. So I mean, it's just getting worse, and it's absurd. And something's got to give. Something has to give, and the NFL needs to realize that they have to improve their product. And I understand there's human error, but goodness me, man, you're allegedly defining what you're going to call in these situations, and they're not calling it the way you're defining it. That's a problem. That means your officials do not understand your rule book and how you're going to go about calling these things. And this is just getting out of hand at this point. And it's costing people ball games. It's costing people points. It's putting defenses in bad situations, offenses in bad situations. Yeah, it's frustrating to watch.
Can I ask one quick question? There was some debate over Tress Way. He got hit, he got kind of hit after he had kicked it. Did you think that was a penalty, or do you think that he just touched him afterwards and he fell down? You know what I'm talking about?
Those things are touchy, man. I didn't think it was a problem. There's times where I watch a guy and, you can kind of see the kicker is in an awkward position, or he's just starting to get his leg down, and the guy's he bumps him, and the kicker just kind of does the old Vladi Divac fall on the ground type of thing, and they throw the flag. And I wish they would be a little bit more hesitant with that, because some of those things are unavoidable. But when you cream a kicker, you know what I mean, or you leg whip a kicker, that's a problem. But I didn't think that was warranted of a foul or a flag on that. I didn't think it was a huge deal at all.
Yeah, it was interesting because in slow-mo, I could see why they would have called it. We had Ken, DC's People Champion, on our post-game. He thought it was one. That's why I was curious your take on that. Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was kind of 50-50 on it myself. So, but I definitely thought that early in the game they were calling everything against us. And, they were technically holding, almost every single down, and none of that was ever called. So I just thought there wasn't really consistency, at least through the first half of the game. I thought it got a little bit better in the second half, but I think that both teams were just trying really hard not to commit penalties. It was interesting in the post-game presser with our new coach. He was talking about how that was a big thing that he tried to preach in practice last week, was not to grab outside of the shoulder pads to make sure you don't get holding penalties and some of the stuff that you could easily fix just by using the correct technique. So I'm happy that he kind of took them back to almost like a training camp where he was really going through it with them and having some tough practices and really trying to figure out how to knock off some of these penalties, because they're looking to call them on us. So we have to be extra careful.
And he's had a full slate of officials this past week. It has been a point of emphasis, and you can tell. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say the league is after the Redskins, but I mean, in the first part of that game, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It almost came off as if it's okay, are we trying to keep Miami in the game? Is this a way to, are we trying to help Miami a little bit? Because these aren't calls that, according to the league, are deemable for a flag. So, and like you said, I really like the emphasis on trying to fix these problems, because that's the only way you're going to correct it, is by working on it. And if it takes getting a second set of eyes, such as other officials, in there for your practices to kind of help you with that, then that's whatever it takes, because penalties are killers. They're killers for defense and offense, and they've definitely been death-dealing blows for the Redskins throughout the first 5 weeks. So, and definitely saw an improvement this week as well. So that's always nice to see.
For sure. Well,
No doubt.
let's real quickly, because our time is a little bit short, but I definitely want to get your quick take on the 49ers and the upcoming week as well, Dujanan.
Yeah, the 49ers are, they're 5-0, and for them to do what they did to the Rams was an interesting feat. They do a lot of things well. They run the ball well, and they do a lot of good play action off of that. And it's typical Kyle Shanahan. They do an excellent job of trying to mix things up and be creative. What they're not good at though is converting on third down. Especially on defense. They allow, actually on defense, they allow only 29%. They're about a 45% conversion rate, which is pretty decent, I guess. About 50%. So, Redskins have to be on their P's and Q's in that. And that's going to be important. They allow on defense, they allow about 53.53% completion percentage. So, they're not allowing guys to go in there and light it up, but Case hasn't been lighting it up. So it's just a matter of not turning the football over and taking what they give you. And it's going to be tough for the Redskins in the red zone because 25%, bro. They're stingy as all get out. And I think that was on display this past weekend with a team that you would have thought it would have been a little bit tougher game as far for them offensively, with the Rams. So, but the Redskins got their work cut out for them. But the Redskins just have to do what they do best. They're at home. I know that doesn't matter. It's an away game for them regardless. But they have to play sound football. If they can do what they did on defense this week, extend that for a quarter, and somehow find the formulas they had in the first half of the Eagles game, I think you got yourself an opportunity to where you can pull off a close win. But I think this has the potential to be close if what we saw yesterday translates to this weekend. If it ends up being resorting back to old habits for Greg Minuski, scheme-wise, and not putting those guys in a great position, and if we have mental lapses, because I thought they were pretty gap sound in that game for at least the first 3 quarters in that game, then this can get out of hand quickly because the 49ers have weapons, and I'm pretty sure that Kyle's going to come in with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and try to pull a Belichick and run the score out.
Yeah.
I totally agree. They got their hands full. They going to have to play almost a perfect game in order to keep San Francisco off the board and match what their defense can do. But definitely going to be interesting. Appreciate you taking the time. Let the folks know where they can find you at so we can get some of this NLCS talk with first pitch coming at 7:38 tonight.
You can find the work at sportsjourney.com. New website, new everything. So you can also find the podcast there. It's on the website as well. You can just click on that. It'll take you right to where you need to go. That is the breakdown. We got 2 articles up right now. Stock Up, Stock Down was just up and gave my impact player unit of the game for the Miami game as well. And there'll be more and more stuff to come this week. So enjoy the week, guys. It wasn't pretty, but it was a victory. So I know fans always feel better when there was a win. So appreciate you guys having me on, man. Thank you.
No problem. That's right. Like we always say, we take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day. All right, brother. I'll let you later on and have a good night.
You too, man. Thanks so much.
And also, I want to let people know that SportsOTHP.com has a Dujournay button that you click on that website. It will actually bring up all of his articles that he's written, both his most recent ones and all the ones in the past. So it's all linked up to their new website as well. So if people just want to find a quick link to it, SportsOTHP.com, and then click the Dujournay button on the top. So we really appreciate Dujournay, as always, for joining us. And we're going to switch into our baseball talk segment now. We got Brian Brennan here live in the man cave. We also got Tim Clark here. I'm going to try to bring them in on this camera as well, or at least Brian, and we'll
squeeze on in.
We'll squeeze on in. So there you go. So yeah, it's been an exciting time for sure for Nats fans. I'll just send it around whenever I. Carol, should we break down how we got here real quick? I'll do a quick scoring update through the division series, and then we can break down those last two games more in depth.
Just to give a quick recap, nothing fancy. We can go back to Game 4. Was a 6-1 win. Mad Max took the mound, went 7 innings, giving up 4 hits, 1 earned run with 7 strikeouts and 3 walks. Ryan Zimmerman had a 3-run home run in the 5th, busting the game open. And Rendon had 3 RBIs also. That was a 6-1 win, the 4th Game 5 in L.A., which L.A. came up a little short. Nats ended up with a huge home run, grand slam by Howie Kendrick in the top of the 10th. It was a very good game, very good series. Daniel Hudson earned the victory. He went 1 inning, giving up 1 hit, no earned run, no strikeout. Juan Soto and Rendon killed it. The 3-4 guys, they pretty much had their way with the Dodgers pitching staff, and they single-handedly kept the Nats in this game with the Dodgers taking an early lead. And as I mentioned, Howie Kendrick, who had a terrible game, terrible series in the field until that game when he answered it all and made it all null and void when he hit a grand slam in the top of the 10th to give the Nats a 7-3 lead, which they held on to in order to get to the NLCS, which is the first time the Nationals franchise has made it to the NLCS, and it was a great thing to see. Unfortunately, the Caps just got scored on as I broke that nugget. But, Robbie, what did you take away from those 2 games? Must-wins for the Nats where they went down in the series in the NLDS to come back and advance to the NLCS for the first time in franchise history.
Yeah, I mean, both were very exciting games. I was definitely very surprised with the ease in which we won that first one, that 6-1 matchup. I didn't necessarily expect that to happen, but it was at home, so I know that they had blown their previous home game to the Dodgers, so I know that they wanted to come back and get a big victory in that one. Obviously, they had to ride their pitchers to some of these victories, but also the hitting came alive. I think they only had 13 runs over the first 3 games, and they were able to have 13 runs over these last 2. So the hitting definitely came alive, but also the pitching was fantastic, because that's how they're going to have to win all these series. I think they're going to have to win these pitching duels and try to get, that's the one advantage the Nationals have, is they have some phenomenal starting rotation. And if they can go deep 7 or 8 innings and we don't have to rely too much on our bullpen, we can be very successful. I was very surprised with the 7-3 win in Dodger Stadium. That game was very, very close. And in fact, the Dodgers were winning until Kershaw gave up those back-to-back, and he definitely, he definitely choked a lot there. And then obviously that 4-run grand slam changed everything for them. Brian, what were some of your thoughts? I know you gave a little bit on our. If people missed either of our post-game shows, we did one for both games. All that's on SportsOTHP.com right now as well. But Brian, what's your sort of quick take on winning the division series?
Yeah, this was a great comeback by the Nats to win the last 2 games. Scherzer was, going back to Game 4, Scherzer was great. in Game 4. That really set them up nicely just to even play in a Game 5. He went out there and really battled it out, and getting through that last 7th inning was really impressive for Scherzer, I thought. And then just the comeback, I already said it, Kershaw really blew it. I mean, he gave up the back-to-back home runs to Rendon and Soto, and that really sparked a really incredible comeback. And I said this on the post-game show after that game, but the Kendrick Grand Slam is the biggest home run in Nats history. Gave them lead and sent them to the NLCS where they had never been before. So really great comeback for the Nats, and congratulations again.
Yeah, and on the postgame show, we did talk about how you called the back-to-back. You said
did.
the next one's going to be a home run.
I have the two witnesses here.
And you called the Grand Slam, too, for the redemption story. So both Tim and I were there for that. Tim, what are some of your thoughts on that game?
I thought a big unsung hero, because, I mean, nationally the story is Kershaw and the Dodgers choked. And that is a big headline because he's the best pitcher of our generation. But how about Soto hitting the biggest home run of his life, and I think the longest home run of his Nats career on the same pitch? I mean, that you kind of forget about it because of the Grand Slam, but that was the tying home run, and he's 20 years old, so that's amazing. I'm excited for him, and this he has no nerves, and I think he's going to keep hitting as long as the Nats are playing. So that's exciting for me.
So I got one last question for Brian, and then I'll throw it back to Carol. So, Brian, right now he's under contract, talking about Soto, for the next 4 years, but there isn't any money associated with that yet. So did they have to negotiate? Because he's kind of like a restricted free agent in hockey. How does that work in baseball?
I think they'd have to. It's
arbitration.
Arbitration until those 4 years are up, and then they'll have to hammer out a deal.
He will get paid. Well,
he's going to get a lot of money.
He will get paid even with arbitration because it's based on performance.
Yeah.
So he'll get $5 million, but he's worth triple that.
Yeah.
So.
He'll get his big payday though. It's coming definitely. So.
Yeah, because he's only getting paid $500,000 for this year,
Right.
so it'll be obviously a big jump. But it's kind of weird. It's one of the very few sports that does it that way, where we own his rights, but there isn't a dollar amount necessarily tied to it, and it's based on performance, as you just said. So I thought that we'd put that out there because I was doing some research on it the other day. I was like, oh, that's interesting. At least we have his rights, but we don't necessarily know how much of a hit it is. But at least with the luxury tax instead of a cap ceiling, it's not too much of a problem. And the owners are probably printing money now that we've made it this far.
Yeah.
So, Carol, any final thoughts on the Dodgers before we get into the Cardinals series?
Just that, like you mentioned, Juan Soto, I go back to the beginning of the season when, folks were, saying, oh, Bryce is gone, the team is going to suck, boom, boom, boom. I told you, I'm not worried about Bryce because I knew we had Juan Soto, a young kid that they, doing the damn thing that's out there, and he's coming in clutch, doing big things. I believe he just turned 21, or maybe he's in the next couple of days where he can finally, start partaking in some of the champagne celebrations that they had. If they could have another one going into the next final round, if they get that far, I'm not going to try to jinx it. We know how things go with DC sports, but I'm loving the way things are going. I love the way they close out the series. The Grand Slam, the back-to-backs, late rally, and like I mentioned before, the Nats scored the most runs with 2 outs this year. We remember back the years where the Nats couldn't do that, and that was one of the things that were missing with this team. They had the pitching, like I mentioned the other day. They had the bullpen and stuff. Only the second year that they really had bullpen issues, going back to when they were contenders and NL East champions. So everything is just coming together. Everything is looking good, and Gerardo Parr, the baby shark. I feel like he was a catalyst for this when he was assigning way back when the team was, under 500. And he came in and helped change the mindset and get everybody loose. And ever since he's joined the team, it's been a whirlwind of them getting themselves together and getting this position to be 2 games away from possibly going to the World Series when folks had wrote them off, when they were 12 games under 500.
For sure. So I did some advanced stat research, and Juan Soto turns 21 on October 25th. So you cannot celebrate the champagne for this one because even if it were to go to 7, he would not quite be 21 yet. So we got to hope for him to win it all, so that way he can enjoy his champagne. So
I like to see the police go and
I would like to lock down
the ticket.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Give
sure.
Taylor the ticket.
Yeah.
Here's his $100 fine.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So, But yes, so he's not quite there yet, but he's getting there. He'll be 21 this month, and he's definitely performing. We all thought he was going to be good. I don't think we thought that he would be able to like replace Bryce Harper in the way that he kind of has, and shows that Soto is better than people thought, and Harper is probably not as good as people thought. So I think we did well with that decision. So.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't say he's not as good as everybody thought. I just say, different team. That Philadelphia team was not built to sustain all the injuries they had. Once they lost McCutchen, their whole lineup, kind of fell apart because they have a lot of big swing guys, and you need a guy like McCutchen in that lineup. And once he went down, I believe they had 11 guys go down, and their bullpen got killed too. So don't count the Phillies out yet. They were doing a damn thing for a minute before the injury bug.
They're already eliminated.
That's not saying Phillies is going to be a slouch going forward, even though they did fire the manager. But that's another story for another day.
Brian points out that they've already been eliminated, so we already can count them out. But you're talking about in the future.
Over his whole contract, they might not be counted out yet.
Yeah, 12 more years. But I mean, we were talking about it. Like he's got to make some big runs in the playoffs early on for this contract to make any sense.
Yeah.
And so the first year did not go well for him. And I also like, as he said, he didn't want to play in DC because he didn't think we had a chance to win. Also blamed a lot of our fans, and our fans have been showing up, and we've been able to get finally past that round without him. So I'm not sure some of those things he was saying were true.
I remember several playoff games where Bryce Harper struck out to end the game. So, I mean, he hit some home runs in the playoffs, but he wasn't exactly clutch. And I like what Soto's doing. I think Bryce Harper had a little bit of nerves. Yeah. Like, he would press with the Nats because he felt like he had to get every big hit. And Soto's kind of playing a role right now, which is good.
Yeah, and for the record, I like the crazy crotch grabbing and all the crazy shit that he does.
That was awesome.
Yeah, I think
I was a big fan of that.
Yeah, I think some people want it tamed down, some people don't. It's kind of a debate in baseball right now.
Let the kids play.
Yeah, let the kids play. I like it.
It's not golf.
Yeah, they actually talked about on the MLB Network. They mentioned it in the game going back to the Milwaukee game where he had that huge hit, and they saw his swagger because normally going up against Hader, game is over, lights out. But he was in the moment, nothing. He did his thing, and we all know what the history is on that. But I mean, with Bryce, he had so much pressure on him being number one pick, inside cover. So definitely he felt pressure to perform, and probably put too much pressure on himself and didn't come through in the clutch in some of the big times, as opposed to Juan Soto, who signed when he was 19 under the radar. I remember when they made the signing, nobody knew who he was, and now he's coming in, doing things that they weren't expecting him to do because there was no real pressure there for him. So you got to look at the contrast of the both way they came into the league and how they were looked at when you talk about pressure situations. Bryce has to grow into that. You don't just have that flair. You can have all the skill and talent in the world, but to have that championship edge, you have to earn that and learn that through experience. So one day he will have it. I'm not going to say that, he's never going to have it, but, you have to build into those things, being that Juan Soto came up with a different, following and no pressure. He's just out there having fun playing ball. You could tell, we mentioned it last year when Jason Worth, left the team, that you could tell there was a change in Bryce, that it was like he wasn't having fun anymore. It was more of a business to him because he had lost like one of his best friends that was on the team, and it all looked different to him. So he just needed to change the scenery. Like I said, don't sleep on the Phillies. They did some, started out hot. If they stay healthy, who knows what would have happened with the division. So all we can do is just wait and see. But let's go ahead and get into
these next two games
in the NLCS, because we're less than 15 minutes away from first pitch, I believe. It's already 7:24. We're less than 10 minutes. About 15. Yeah, they said 7:38. All right, game one was a phenomenal performance by Anibal Sanchez, who went 7 2/3, giving up one hit, no earned runs with 5 strikeouts and 1 walk. Sean Doolittle earned a 4-out save. He gave up no hits, no runs with a strikeout and no walks. Yan Gomes hit an RBI double in the second, scoring Rendon, and Howie Kendrick hit an RBI single in the seventh to give the Nats a little bit of breathing room, and they shut out the Cardinals for a combined one-hitter, Doolittle and Sanchez, which was amazing amazing game, and I saw a stat on him. In games under 50 degrees, he had 16 starts. He's 6-2 with a 2.10 ERA. So this guy loves the cold weather, and he definitely came in clutch. Robbie, what did you take away from that historic performance that he put up in Game 1?
Yeah, it was really incredible. You know, he became one of the very first pitchers to ever go over 6 innings into a no-hitter in 2 different playoff performances. They also were able to combine for that one hitter, as you said, which is only the 3rd time in NL history that's ever happened. So that's a big deal. I think, you know, especially in this day and age where hitting is so prevalent, to be able to be one of the few teams. I mean, there's been times in previous years where there was less scoring, and still that didn't happen. And so I was pretty impressed by both of those. But I just, you know, you can't say enough about the pitching. I love that they saw that Hudson was having, you know, his wife was having a baby, and they wanted to combine the 2 of them and just be it, that they don't need anybody else. And they really try to make it their goal of the day to just, you know, be able to get all the way to Doolittle, and Doolittle to be able to take it home. And they use that as motivation. And, you know, there was so many talking heads and so much BS going around saying, you know, should he take it off? Should he not? You know, it's the playoffs. I think it's 100% the right decision. I don't care how many children you have. You got to be there for the birth of every single one of them. Like, it doesn't matter if it was his 3rd kid. Like, you know, like later in life, you want to say, I was there for your birth. And I think that the team really rallied behind it. And I love, even the coach was joking about how they should have called him Annabella, you know. So I thought that was really funny. Annabella Shawn, to name him after the 2, which they didn't. But I thought that was a funny thing to say, at least. And there's a little bit of fighting going on in this Caps game, which is the most excitement we've seen. Yeah, it's 5-2, 7-20 left. Yeah.
There's definitely going to be a fight.
Yeah, definitely some chippiness. So, but overall, I was very, very happy, obviously, to get the victory. And then, just like what happened years back with the Tigers in back-to-back starts, you know, Max Scherzer gets the ball after Anibal Sanchez pitches an incredible game. And I was like, oh, don't get too amped up, you know, just do Max Scherzer type things. And you could basically do a repeat of Game 4 of the previous round, and I'd be happy with that. Don't try to pitch a no-hitter yourself. I mean, don't not try to, but, like, don't make that your goal. Just be who you are. And the thing that I love about Max is he loves to shut teams down. What he wants to do is he wants to get into the 7th inning, and he wants that 7th inning to be his best inning. And I think that's a really cool mentality. That's what he wants to be known for.
Like in the series before, against the Dodgers in Game 4, how that 7th inning, he was just lights out, shutting it down and just giving him no chance to breathe. You know, I'm a big Scherzer fan, so I just want to say that he was excellent, obviously, and you know, great for him for giving him the 2-0 lead going back to DC. But Anibal Sanchez, wow. I mean, nobody saw that coming from him. I don't think even the biggest Anibal Sanchez fan would have ever predicted that, honestly. And he's the Nationals' number 4 starter. Yeah, his own mom wouldn't have called that. So, number 4 starter, and really an impressive pitching performance by him. And you know, you wouldn't expect that from your number 4 guy, which is great to see if you're a Nationals fan.
Yeah, I do have to say, I had my friend Benson actually did say that he thought that he could have one of those games that he every once in a while does. And so my son is joining us. He's wearing his Good Luck Nationals onesie, as you can see here on screen. He's been a Good Luck pitcher person for almost all the games wearing this onesie. So he's rooting the Nationals on before he goes to bed as well. Carol, what were some of your thoughts on the Max Scherzer great Game 2? Combined with Hudson and with Dew.
Yeah, it was a great performance. 7 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs with 11 strikeouts and 2 walks. It was a great pitcher matchup between him and Wainwright. The shadows definitely played a role in the game, even though the Nats had the same shadows to work against. Yeah, Michael Taylor hitting a solo home run in the 3rd, and I keep on saying Mark Eaton. I don't know why I love old school Mark Eaton basketball, but I don't know why his name sticks in my head. Adam Eaton had a huge 2-run RBI double in the 8th to give the Nats a little bit of cushion before they gave up a run late in the bottom of the eighth after they scored in the top of the eighth. But it was definitely a masterful pitching performance. It puts a lot of pressure on St. Louis coming here to for the next matchup with Strasburg and Flaherty. The Cardinals, I mean, I'm not counting them out, but they've had offensive struggles throughout the whole season. They went on pitching and defense, and if you would have thought that Nats would only have scored 5 runs in the first 2 games, you would think that would be, in the St. Louis favor. But unfortunately, our pitching staff has been locked in, been doing the thing. The bullpen is doing what they need to do, and it's going to be interesting game 3. But that game 2 was definitely something memorable because we've seen these two do it in 2013 with the Tigers on the same staff in the ALCS, and then they turn around and do the same thing in the NLCS. Only difference is in the ALCS it was a split. They won 1, they lost 1. In this NLCS, the team won both of the games. So maybe this could be something special. And we got Strasburg taking them out tonight, and his stuff has looked like it has in his previous starts in the postseason. It's going to be a very interesting game.
Yeah, as you were saying, that it's interesting. No pitchers had ever done back-to-back 6+ shutout innings in the American League, and so they were the first ones to do that back-to-back. And then they're the first ones in now the National League Championship Series to do it. So now they own the record in both, and they're the only ones to ever do it twice, each one of them. So they broke like 3 or 4 records just in having 2 nights of good pitching. So I thought that was pretty cool. And you're right, for us to have Strasburg as our quote-unquote third best going in this, is a pretty impressive outing. Hopefully they find a big way to get a huge victory.
Yeah, definitely. Flaherty is St. Louis top pitcher. He's been the hottest pitcher since the All-Star break. I believe he said he had 16 starts, and he has a low 2 ERA. He doesn't give up runs. In my mind, he's only 24. He's a young guy. Pressure might get to him in a situation, knowing what's on the line. The Nats hitters and their patience and the way they've had the next man up mentality, not doing too much. And I got to give a shout out to Davey Martinez, doing a hell of a job managing, pulling all the right, pitches, pulling all the right plays, pulling all the right players in the time at the right time. I just think this team is locked in, and we're going to see another great game that's going to come down to a pitcher, missing a spot, and it's going to cost one team. Hopefully, it's going to be the Cardinals it's going to cost, but with their lineup, they have a lot of big hitters, and that's why you've seen the Nats game plan is to stay low and inside, and they haven't been able to do anything.